Alright, here we go. The final stretch of episodes. Almost to the finish line, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get these last 3 over with. We start episode 7 with a flashback from 2 years prior. Kwan, her dad, and other members of the resistance are eating. You can tell it's a flashback because Kwan's hair doesn't look like a barber's attempt at a cruel joke.
News from Article City. 2 divisions of Marines just pulled out and they were in a hurry.
It's happening all across the outer colonies. The UNSC is spread thin. They're on the run.
Why did you guys think the Covenant were
UNSC propaganda!
You're getting information that the UNSC are pulling back troops all across the colonies, something that you are physically witnessing on yours. At the same time, you also hear an alien army is attacking the UNSC, and you don't connect that maybe the two are related? You instead think the UNSC are making up these attacks and are deciding to pull resources from their colonies.
Just cause.
I guess when you're a ragtag group of desert miners, you're not going to necessarily have the best pick of intelligent military leaders. But you think there would at least be a few people with an IQ higher than their age. The young guy from episode 1 is here too. Kwan's aunt tries setting her up with him.
저녁 먹고 쟤 데리고 요 앞에 산책이라도 갔다 와. 동물원에 갇혀 있는 것도 답답한데 놀이기까지 해야 되나?
What?
That was a weird way to reply to that. Doesn't really make sense either. Kwan then questions the guy on what his plans are after they've won the war.
I'm guessing you grew up working the heavy water rigs. Will you go back to that?
I guess.
Then nothing really changes for you, does it?
Trying to make the point that, from her point of view, nothing will change whether or not they win.
Even if we win the war against the UNSC and you don't die, you'll still be out there pumping fuel like the rest of us.
God, this character sucks.
You're the worst.
So Kwan's point that this guy will be back doing the same job regardless of which side wins is a terrible point. Now, given that the show never establishes what life was like pre-war living under the UNSC, I can't make a definitive statement, but I'm guessing from their perspective, they were working for what they saw as poor compensation. So even if this guy does the exact same job as before, in theory, it'd be under better circumstances. I wonder if there might be an example of this in history.
But Kwan is meant to not understand the importance of her father's rebellion at this point. She's too young to understand the complexity of all this.
You can have her bring up the casualties that the war has had for their people and question whether the freedoms they fight for are worth it without it making her come across as irrational.
If you're gonna feed your soldiers, father, at least don't feed them lies.
You know the writer of the episode was high-fiving themselves with that one. Also, lies? What lies? The guy seemed to have a pretty realistic understanding of his circumstances if they were to win. After Kwan storms out, she climbs to the top of the border around the fuel pump they operate out of, looking into the vast desert. As we cut to the show's present day, with the camera on the piece of motorcycle she broke off when she escaped, the camera then tilts up to Kwan, I guess implying that she feels tied, or shackled, to her father's war. Cool bit of visual storytelling. Though seeing how incompetent the rest of the show is, it wouldn't surprise me that the meaning in this shot was accidental, and never meant to be read into deeply. Kwan goes full speed ahead into a dust storm until she sees some shadowy figures and immediately stops. Is it just me, or does the car look like it wasn't even moving in this shot? I don't know. Maybe it was just the way it was edited. She then gets out of the car and asks,
Who's there?
as the camera slowly creeps up behind her. She looks around, then right at the camera. That was a weird bit of blocking. We are first led to believe that maybe the camera is a POV of someone sneaking up behind Kwan, but then she turns around and seems to be squinting at something just behind it. As she does that, someone from the side runs up and bags her, the same side she was looking directly at a second before.
It's a sandstorm. It's probably hard to see.
Sure, but if she can see these people who are further away from her than this person, who would have been closer for the timing of this to work, definitely should have been seen. Whatever, small detail, moving on. We meet back up with Soren, who appears to have gotten off of Madrigal. He's telling a made-up story about how his ship got taken down and how he got back.
Damn flock of quad wings got sucked up my intake valves about 1,000 feet over the surface of Madrigal.
What did you do?
I aimed for a sand dune and brought it down in a controlled roll for about 1.5 miles.
Oh, what an absolutely incredible story.
It is, isn't it?
Good for him. He has every right to leave her to die on Madrigal and not feel guilty about it. She literally attacked him and was about to shoot him in the head.
Get what you fucking deserve!
A guy from Soren's crew, this guy, shows up and says,
Oh shit, let's go home.
wait, hold on. His name is Squirrel? Why is his name Squirrel? Is that a nickname the other members of his crew gave him? Is it because he's got the intelligence of one?
Hey, why does it take more than one squirrel to change a light bulb? Because they're so darn stupid.
Throughout the party, we hear Soren telling that made-up story to several people, all while we see Squirrel watches him, getting annoyed. For some reason. Enough for him to start trying to poke holes in his story.
What happened to the girl?
Soren is able to dodge the question. So Squirrel says,
People are talking.
Oh, yeah? And what are they saying?
Maybe Soren's lost a step.
Soren, darling. Forget about it.
I want to hear what he has to say. Little squirrel finally gathered his nuts.
Really? Is that why they named him that? So Soren could deliver this line? You know the writer came up with that line first, then retroactively named him Squirrel, thinking,
Man, first that killer Kwan line and now this. I'm on a roll today.
You tell me. Have I lost a step?
why does he react like this? What did he think would happen when he started challenging Soren's status? Did he not think this confrontation would get heated? Speaking of the question,
What happened to the girl?
Kwan is taken to some camp out in the middle of the desert.
You're the women my father came out here to see.
So were they just standing out there in the middle of the desert waiting for Kwan? How did they know Kwan was coming? Or did they just so happen to be standing there with a knockout bag and saw Kwan driving straight toward them? Whatever the explanation is, I'm sure it'll make sense in the science-fictional world of Halo.
My father's dead now. He was killed defending Madrigal.
Is that what he was doing? I don't know if that's entirely accurate. Though to be fair, does anyone want to remember their father died being an idiot? She demands this lady tell her what she told her father, but the lady refuses, saying that she's not ready. Kwan tries convincing her by saying,
I took on a man twice my size and won.
I'm sorry. What?
Who was this? Soren? You sneak attacked him with a stun stick thing and knocked him out. You did not take him on.
I'll fight you all if I have to.
Oh, please. Please indulge her on that.
Your rage blinds you.
To what? Making rational decisions? Taste in hair?
Rage is all I have left.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Boy oh boy, I am killing it. Just firing out banger after banger lines in this episode. I deserve to treat myself for this.
So the desert lady gives Kwan some exposition about her family lineage and Madrigal. The lady gives Kwan some fire water, causing her to start hallucinating. She wakes up in the Super Condor from episode 1, trying to get Cheeks' attention. I know it's supposed to be a hallucination, but what the fuck? Cheeks and Kwan exit the ship, only to then walk into the same tent that Kwan was just in with the desert lady. The crazy guy from episode 2 is also here. Kwan and Cheeks are then pitted against each other, and what comes next is probably the best part of the entire show. After several literal crushing defeats, Kwan gives up, but Cheeks reaches his hand out and helps her up. He then leads her to a well in the middle of the desert. Even in a hallucination, Cheeks takes off his armor for seemingly no reason. What's funny is this is like one of the only times his sudden change out of his armor would make sense contextually, because it's some kind of dream or hallucination, not reality. Cheeks shows her what I'm assuming is her ancient ancestor talking to... Is that supposed to be a monitor?
그 사람 곧 돌아올 거야. 이곳으로. 그리고 자네는 그 사람에게 길을
Oh no.
알 텐데.
아빠?
There's magic in Halo now, isn't there?
Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
And not that whole science that seems like magic, but is just super advanced tech kind of a thing. This lady found Kwan in the middle of a sandstorm, held fire, turned it into water that Kwan drank, and caused her to have a vision where she saw and spoke to her dead ancestors.
Well, it could still just be a dream or a hallucination. Maybe she didn't actually talk to them.
They gave her new information she did not know. If you're dreaming or hallucinating, you can't be given new information that you, yourself, did not have before. Well, this version of Halo has actual magic in it. That's a departure from the games that has serious implications about this version of the universe. Let's hope the writers are aware of this.
포탈이란다. 마드리갈에 숨겨진 고귀한 힘으로 움직이는 네가 안전해지기 전까지는 그래서 우리가 이 마드리갈을 꼭 지켜야만 한다.
I'm a protector.
What the fuck?
You're what? A protector? Of what? The portal? To what? A Halo ring? The Ark? God, I hope they're not that stupid. Then again,
I feel like sometimes the universe can feel so inaccessible.
turns out Kwan's family lineage was tasked with protecting Madrigal. Why? Did the monitors seek out Kwan's ancestor in particular? Or was this encounter coincidental? Did the monitor bestow this duty onto them? Or is this like that episode of Rick and Morty where some great ancestor has some random encounter which then led to future generations being obsessed with it? Where is the portal? Where does it lead to? Does the weird magic this lady and everyone else here possess powered by Forerunner technology? Or is it a separate thing? Do the writers even know the questions that this now opens?
Nope.
Back at the Asteroid City place, Squirrel is walking around and hops onto that train zipline thing we saw back in episode 2. However, Soren gets on at the same time. He acts like he's about to threaten him, but instead says,
I haven't appreciated you enough for all that you've done.
and asks him about the job he was talking about earlier.
We have the plan. Draken and me. A big score.
Something about selling some slipspace drivers. Squirrel thinks he's not only in the clear with Soren, but might actually be rewarded. However, on the job, Soren lowers a forklift on his foot, re-establishing his dominance to Squirrel after questioning him at the party.
I thought you could fill my shoes.
Later, Soren and his wife talk about Kwan. He thinks she's probably dead by now, but his wife informs him that Dark Knight Rises guy has just tripled the bounty on her, meaning she's probably alive. Speaking of, the man himself captures the general lady from episode 4. Wait, was she not arrested? Or taken in? Did she escape somehow? I thought the only reason Kwan escaped was that she had Soren.
You and I knew Jin Ha very well. This was a sick man, as was the whole Ha family. Sick, delusional, and weak.
Stupid, incompetent, annoying. I feel like those are better descriptors of their family. After not getting info on Kwan's whereabouts from her, one of his soldiers gives him a pad with camera footage of Kwan's location. She's at the fuel pump place from episode 1, and the flashback earlier. The general lady goes to leave when he just shoots her in the back.
I like being bad. It makes me happy.
While Kwan is looking around the fuel pump place, Soren suddenly shows up. Man, he got here quick. Maybe the teleporters in multiplayer are canon in the show.
Oh my god. The teleporter sent me back in time.
This guy a retard?
He tries to convince Kwan that he's here to help her.
I'm doing just fine on my own, thanks.
Gee, what a charismatic, lovable character. All you've been doing is walking around the desert with the help of those mystic ladies. You haven't really had to fight anybody yet. In fact, your previous encounters since returning to Madrigal were fended off by Soren. He's the only reason you're alive. And despite that fact, you knocked him out and considered shooting him in the head.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
You're extremely lucky he has enough of a conscience and a moral code to feel the need to come back to help you.
Maybe you're too young or too stupid to understand.
Yes.
I made a promise to John to keep you safe, and I intend to keep it whether I like you or not.
Kwan seems convinced and lowers the gun.
You're not exactly a picnic either.
My pistol. Oh, it's like that?
Yeah, it's like that.
Okay.
That's better. Dark Knight Rises guy announces his presence. instead of having his team quietly advance on them and take them out while they're distracted arguing.
Well, he probably doesn't even know Soren is here. How would he know they're arguing?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe that aerial surveillance that he has? Seriously, you couldn't even wait until your soldiers were ready to announce that you were here? Kwan and Soren figure out a plan, which is probably why giving them time to strategize wasn't too wise. Kwan comes up with a plan to fill that big thing in the center with gas and blow it up, while hiding in the bunker that will probably keep them safe.
Probably.
You wanted a plan, that's it.
Alright, calm down. I was about to compliment you on your ability to devise a plan on the spot, but the fact that it has to be this plan? What if Soren can think of a better one that has a higher probability you won't die? Why are you so insistent on this specific plan? Wait, was this part of the mystic way your ancestors wanted you to deal with this? Is this the protector way?
Harm will come to you. Of that I give you my solemn.
What the fuck is that face? And his glasses? Get it, everyone? He's the bad guy. His words mean nothing. Kwan gives their location away, then realizes that the gas isn't flowing. She has to open the valve for the pipe attached to the big thing in the center. They then find a box of money, which conveniently pays off the debt to Soren. Kwan finally wisens up and gives him back his pistol. There's a beat where Soren, I guess, is considering taking the money and running. Though at this point I don't think anyone believes he would take off now. He just had the arc of his guilt bringing him back here with no material benefit to himself. Who do you think you're fooling here? Dark Knight Rises guy enters the fuel pump place with his men, because it's very common and wise for the leader of an entire planet to enter on the front lines. I know it's just 2 people, but there's still potential for a shootout.
Maybe he wants to be here to witness Kwan die because of his personal hatred for her family.
Sure, but he doesn't have to literally have an up-close view that would put his life in danger. This isn't a Gus Fring Hector Salamanca situation. I'm guessing Dark Knight Rises guy hates Kwan's dad because he got in his way. If the disdain runs deeper, then it would have been nice to get a little more of that than just a few lines here and there.
So these are the aliens. Ugly bastards.
Yet, I would much rather be having them as a villainous threat this season than you. Briefly walking up to a cold, dead corpse and apathetically dismissing it as something beneath them, you couldn't ask for a better representation of how the show views the gaming IP they're tied to. Soren fights off Dark Knight Rises guy's soldiers while Kwan crawls in the tunnels underneath. Wait, how did he lose Soren? That explosion wouldn't have been big enough to mask him running away. I guess that cut to Kwan was meant to imply Soren found a way to evade them off screen? How? I don't know. Guess the writers don't either. How does this guy not notice Soren sneaking around him? Even if he didn't look in Soren's direction and his back is completely turned to him the whole time, he would still hear Soren walking around. They're not in a grass field. Hard, sandy surfaces tend to make a crunching sound when you walk on them. Soren sees a soldier and stops by this corner, takes out his knife, and throws it at the soldier before he notices him. Soren then runs over to the soldier but somehow knows that this other soldier is around the corner, even though he wouldn't be able to see him. Wait, this guy's coming from over here, where Soren was. Maybe his back was turned to Soren too? Then he heard the guy get knifed and came over? And instead of just shooting Soren right here, he waits for Soren to grab his arm. Then this third guy, who had a clean shot at Soren when he was running at the other soldier, decides to run right up to Soren so he can get knifed in the throat. Instead of waiting at a distance for the hand-to-hand Soren is having with the other soldier to end, so he can get another clean shot at him. After some more embarrassing fights, Kwan finds her way to the fuel pump valve. Unfortunately for her, a soldier literally spawns right next to her. I guess his gun didn't load in with him, so he goes to grab her. Luckily, Soren is nearby to save her with an incredible headshot. You know, if he's that close to it now, why couldn't he be the one to activate the pump? I originally thought it was because the valve was underground, so it would make sense for her to go and do it while Soren distracted them up top. Kwan runs away and Soren continues to use his aim assist to land perfect killing shots. Who the fuck was shooting at the ground and not his head? As he reloads, this guy, with a clean shot at him, somehow misses and gets shot. Wait, was that him firing? We hear gunshots in the close-up on Soren, but when it cuts to him, he's not firing anymore. We never see where any of the bullets went, which implies that he's so inaccurate of a shot it would make stormtroopers blush, or that gunfire was from somewhere else, and the guy did the terrible cliche of announcing their presence so the main character can kill them. Dark Knight Rises guy stalks around with a group of soldiers with him, like a boss battle in a video game where you have to defeat the boss's henchmen before performing a finishing move on him. Kwan gets spotted by a soldier, and despite calling out that he found her, I got her! No one comes to help him. And because no one comes to give this guy backup, Kwan finds a sticky grenade and blows him up. Guys, she's the reason you're here. Your objective is to kill her, not Soren. Kill her now, deal with Soren after. It's only now that the other soldiers run over to his aid, after he is now turned into meat sauce. This also causes Soren to storm the soldiers who are now coming to him? Alright, what the fuck is this blocking? So Soren is by this truck, seemingly using it as cover based on his posture here, but then he turns around and there are soldiers behind him running at him, despite them being behind cover and him on this side of the truck being completely exposed. How are they not able to shoot him? Even if he were to try to get away, on the other side of the truck, Dark Knight Rises guy and the other soldiers are there to shoot him. I'm guessing this guy must have run out of ammo trying to shoot Soren and missing, or his gun despawned on him. So he decided to go at Soren with a melee weapon instead of not doing that. Then, despite the rest of his soldiers using rifles, Dark Knight Rises guy is able to get a critical shot on Soren using his handgun at this distance. Guess he has aim assist on too. I know it seems I'm picking on the blocking and choreography more than I usually do. I prefer digging more into plot and character stuff, lightly touching on any blatantly awkward fight choreography here and there for a quick joke. But damn, it's really bad in this episode for me to be picking up on it this much. Soren finds a rag sitting next to him and tends his wound with it. I'm guessing the bullet hit his armor then grazed his neck, and he didn't get directly shot in the neck. Dark Knight Rises guy has his men stop firing and calls out to Kwan to give up, just as she hides underneath this truck, conveniently finding an assault rifle near one of its tires.
It's not convenient actually. It was set up all the way back in episode 1. See, it's got the same 117 marking on it like the one John threw. Got you, you nitpicking asshole. I guess it seems you're not as smart as you think you are.
Well, I wouldn't get too ahead of yourself there. Yes, it's true. We did see Cheeks throw this assault rifle on the ground back in episode 1. But do we remember where Cheeks threw it? Because I don't think it was underneath this truck. In fact, they had a CGI shot of where the gun landed, which means they had to deliberately make the choice to have the gun not land here.
Well, it's not implausible for the gun to be knocked over during the battle in episode 1. Maybe a grenade blew up near it and landed under the truck.
Sure, but then why not have another shot of this happening in the episode? Why only show us this, to then have it reappear in another spot? Showing an object's location as a setup only works as a payoff if it's in that same spot.
And this needed to match to specifications in the next episode.
Well, actually,
or
not
a couple
even
episodes future.
Episode 8.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Several future. And so there were a lot of conversations between Team 605 and Team 608, writers and directors and producers, to make sure that we were all on the same page.
How do you fuck up such an easy setup and payoff? How? Soren tries crawling over to his gun, while Dark Knight Rises guy decides to monologue to him.
Failed Spartan, mediocre pirate, and now martyr for the delusion of an orphaned young girl.
As much as I'm tempted to make fun of the fact they just don't shoot Soren here, giving Kwan time to get over to them to get in position to fire, I actually think it's fine. Obviously, the smartest thing to do is immediately shoot your opponent before they think of a way to turn the tables, but it's within his character to want to show off his power and gloat a little about it. To him, Kwan's a scared little girl hiding, delaying the inevitable. The only real threat to him is now wounded and can't reach his only firearm. As far as he understands, there is no way for him to lose now. So yeah, this is how you would construct a circumstance like this to happen. Removing the plot armor and stupidity that allowed the story to even get here, this little moment isn't too bad, though it is like complimenting an electrician who finally figured out how to plug a cord into an outlet.
What kind of fool does that make you?
A fool thinks himself to be wise, but a wise man knows himself to be a fool.
Holy shit, this might be the best episode of television ever written. This dialogue is award-winning, but yet it just comes to me in the moment. I think I might be the greatest writer who ever lived.
Kwan then runs out and fires at the big thing in the center. The soldiers did have enough time to shoot her, but why expect them to be competent after everything we've seen? The thing blows up, killing Dark Knight Rises guy. There he goes, killed by a metaphor for the subtlety of his character. Were you guys just standing there the whole time? Just watching them? Not helping? You know, statistically, there is no way they should have survived this fight. If Kwan is really the super important protector of Madrigal and that Forerunner portal, you'd think they would want to help protect her, maybe using some of that magic they have. Kwan and Soren exit the bunker to then be greeted with what I'm guessing is the gasoline that was in those pipes raining down on them. Unless this is regular rain that the magical ancestors are doing to celebrate Kwan's victory or something. For their sake, it better not be the former with all that fire around them. Kwan and Soren have a scene where they say their goodbyes and act as if they've had character growth together.
I'm not one for joining lost causes.
I don't believe that.
Then Soren takes off, even though the whole point of him returning was to keep his promise to Cheeks to protect her. Hey, his ship is repaired now. Wonder when that happened. And on that, we end the episode and Kwan's storyline for the season. What a character. What a journey. And I think the biggest question on everyone's minds is, what was the point of this entire storyline? It has virtually nothing to do with anything else in the show. The only thing it really does is set up Kwan as this protector of Madrigal and some kind of portal that's on it. But if it's supposed to be the portal to the Ark, why not just have it on Earth like it is in the games? It makes sense because humans
are Forerunner.
Or according to 343 lore,
the Primordial revealed that it was decided long ago that humanity, not the Foreigners, were meant to inherit the mantle of responsibility from the Precursors, which is something that the Foreigners held so dear to themselves. Regardless of what the Foreigners believed, it was woven into the fabric of existence that the mantle belonged to humanity.
God, I really hate 343's lore. So that would make sense why their home planet would have the portal. Why would it be on some random planet in the galaxy? The odds that humanity would even settle on the planet, let alone discover all the Forerunner shit on it, is extremely low. The writers seem to have gone out of their way to have this storyline and tried to justify it by tying it into the lore in a way that, yet again, makes no sense. Why? Well, it seems like they wanted to have more of the insurrectionist versus the UNSC stuff that is lightly touched on in the games but heavily explored in the books.
What was the inspiration behind Kwan and her involvement in the show?
Insurrection is canonical, Human Covenant War canonical. We kind of pulled those timelines closer together.
Okay.
Right? Because we wanted to explore that outer colony, inner colony dynamic and the insurrection and who the Spartans were to the insurrectionists.
What's wrong with that? It's an adaptation, right? You said it's fine to change things around, that you'll judge it based on its own merits?
That's true, but there was a second part to that too. You can absolutely change whatever you want in an adaptation if it helps your story. However, I would recommend you still understand the source material very well. Because if you want to make changes to certain things, but at the same time keep the payoffs those things allow, then you're going to run into problems. Because most of the time, those things happened a certain way in the original source for a reason. Saying you want these two different events in the timeline to overlap more is kind of like saying, I want to tell a story where the US is still in the Great Depression, even during their involvement in World War II, without understanding that it was the US's involvement in World War II that allowed for their economy to start thriving again. Or, I want to make it so World War I and World War II are happening at the same time, without understanding that one of the main reasons World War II happened was due to the state Germany was left after World War I. It's because of the war with the Covenant that the war between the insurrectionists and the UNSC eventually stopped. Having this enormous alien army, whose goal is total eradication of your species, caused the warring human factions to shift focus to this much bigger threat. That all being said, it's perfectly fine to write an alt history story where you could combine the events of the First and Second World Wars. or a story where the US was battling with both a world war and a horrific economic depression. There's a lot of story potential that could be mined in those premises. I would, however, recommend you read and watch a lot of material to fully understand them, so you can write an alt history universe where it would make sense that America's involvement in World War II didn't stimulate its economy, or certain events during World War II could still happen despite the aftermath of World War I not sparking it. That same logic applies here, except, as you can see from everything that's happened in the show up until this point, the writers did not put that level of thought into this change, and the evidence is how the story has to fight with what would logically happen. You'd think witnessing this never-before-seen alien army blindsiding your forces and plowing right through them to then only be stopped by super soldiers that fight for the UNSC might change your perspective on whether your people should be trying to separate from them. Sure, you still might have issues with the way the government runs your planet. That's even drama that can be explored. But to have Kwan still be so one-sided in her view that the UNSC absolutely have no business on Madrigal is laughable. Especially having her go out of her way to threaten to lie to the other planets to reject the UNSC's help, which would cause them to meet the same fate as her father and his fighters. And even though she defeated Dark Knight Rises guy, he'll just be replaced, either from the Madrigal government or someone else the UNSC appoints. And even if you're able to get all of the fighters from your dad's revolution back, you guys still have an uphill battle to fight, let alone if, or when, the Covenant return for the portal. Unless being the Protector gives you superpowers, you're probably gonna need some backup. They could have a story where Kwan realizes this and has to find a way to work with the UNSC, but also try to find a way to advocate for her people's best interest. That could have actually been an interesting exploration of the politics of war, but nope, she doesn't need the UNSC. She can lead her people and face whatever comes their way. Just cross your fingers and pray the Covenant don't find out about that portal though. Another thing I'm just now realizing about the world building is every citizen of Madrigal in favor of seceding from the UNSC, or is it just these people? You know, there are a lot of people on an entire planet. That could have also been an interesting thing to explore. The perspectives of people on Madrigal who feel they do need the UNSC, especially after the Covenant attack. Too bad the show doesn't seem interested in showing stuff like that. It's either total cartoonish dictator executing people in the streets, or total independence from the UNSC. There is no middle ground that could be achieved here in this very nuanced show. What a waste of a storyline. We finally meet back up with Master Cheeks, doing what he does best, standing around with no clothes on, as he stares at himself in the mirror. Then it cuts to McKee doing the same thing, except with her clothes on. Cheeks then enters her room, hands her a jacket, and leads her out of the base. The person we established in the last episode who couldn't be trusted. Cheeks further demonstrating his lack of intelligence post-pellet removal. We finally arrived at the famous Reach City part.
Yeah, there it is! There it is!
Of all the names you can come up with, or just take from the game or books. This image alone sums up the amount of creativity that went into the writing of the show. We then get some voiceover from Halsey explaining that
there was something about him.
There certainly is. Creepy pervert science man points out that Cheeks' health is improving, mirroring McKee's vitals.
All his systems are back to normal.
Look at you, so cheerful.
What was that? Is he mad at Cortana? Why did he say that in that tone?
Chief's health is important to me. There's 2 of us inside his head now, remember?
Keep your head down. There's 2 of us in here now, remember?
Just keep your head down. There's 2 of us in here now, remember?
Looking around, McGee is reminded of that book and her friend from back on the garbage place.
And they ran among the broad margolia trees and the sun danced on the leaves.
What's that?
It's from a book a friend used to read to me when I was very young.
Oh no, they're not gonna... No, that would be really stupid.
Look at him, frolicking in the park.
I mean, I feel like he's done a lot worse than...
Frolicking in the park.
You're just now realizing he's acting weird?
The 117 I knew would have torn her apart 1 limb at a time until he got the answers he required.
A bit much for an interrogation method, no? Parendowski begins to panic at the idea of Cheeks figuring out their involvement in what happened to him. Keyes tries to calm her worries.
You have to trust him, Margaret. Master Chief is a soldier. He's always on mission.
Except for the most recent times he wasn't, doing the complete opposite of his orders. You were there when both of these happened.
On the ring.
I saw you too. How did you do that?
I don't know, I let go.
What the hell does that even mean? Looks like you did the opposite of that.
There's a prophecy where the stars sparkle like glass. A divine wind will rush through, propelling all those who are worthy on a great journey to the sacred ring.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Did the writers of the show confuse the great journey that the Covenant believe as the actual purpose of the Halo rings? Or have they changed it so they do have a magical purpose?
Neither. She obviously bought into the lie told by the prophets, just like in the games.
But then why does the show treat going to a Halo ring as this spiritual holy experience? There's a line McGee has about a metaphysical connection she has to the ring.
I felt a connection to it my entire life. It's like a yearning for home.
Maybe the exact belief the Covenant we're told might be a lie, but it definitely seems like the show is trying to imply the rings have a greater purpose beyond just being a device to eradicate all sentient life in the galaxy. Wouldn't surprise me if they changed the literal name of the series and their purpose. Who knows? Guess we'll have to wait and find out. Cheeks starts to question McGee's belief that humans aren't worthy. Hey, Cheeks, you think someone who has these thoughts about her own species might be some sort of Covenant spy?
From what I saw, humans didn't seem to be worthy of anything.
What have you seen? Because some people on a dumpster planet tased you, your entire species sucks? We, want to get into what you and your group are doing? Maybe later.
I've only seen fragments from my childhood, but what I saw, what I felt, was goodness.
What do we talk about?
I asked you what you're drawing.
Let's have this be the end of all this nonsense, John.
Mom! I don't want to do it!
Bury it, son.
But what I saw was goodness.
Cheeks then suggests to Keyes and Parandowski that they let McGee touch the artifact so she can track the second one, since she seems to have more of a connection to the ring than he does. Keyes and Parandowski rightfully push back. Cheeks thinks he can convince McGee that her views on humanity are wrong, to which Keyes says,
Chief, people don't just manually override decades of indoctrination. I did.
As writers, that's not something to really brag about.
People don't just manually override decades of indoctrination. I did.
You only achieved that because apparently the only thing keeping you from questioning your indoctrination was a small device near your ass. Unless the Covenant did the same thing, it's not going to be as easy as it was for you. Also, why would Keyes say something like that to Cheeks? Why would you not word that statement more carefully? Despite all the things that could go wrong, they agree to try Cheeks' idea. I guess because...
Miranda can supervise.
Whatever that helps. After we briefly cut away to Kai taking bets about how much she can lift, because I guess that was an urge the pellet was suppressing, we cut back after some time has passed. Keyes goes to check on Miranda to see if things are ready for their retarded plan. She starts talking about trying to translate this audio file she got from the ship that was attacked in episode 3.
It's the most bizarre thing. Even with voice approximation, I'm picking up some weird variant on the dialect.
A creature speaking Singeli that sounds off, you say? Almost like it's a creature who's not a native speaker of it. Also, the showrunners know that not everyone in the Covenant speaks Singeli, right? Just the Singeli? Now, I know I'm pretty negative to just about everything in this show, but I do want to give some props to the research that must have gone into decoding language and dialect for Miranda's dialogue here. Though they could have made all this shit up and I couldn't tell you the difference. But it does seem the production team did hire actual linguists to create a consistent Singeli language for the show, which is pretty cool. Too bad you don't get to really notice since the Covenant are barely a presence. Yet another example of the production team that goes above and beyond getting kneecapped by these guys. The sinking tide that lowers all the other hard-working boats. Cheeks goes to visit McKee again.
You two are relieved? Our orders are to stay with the squid head.
Jesus, dude. Again? Makes me question who the real bad guys are. Does Cheeks have the authority to do that? Do they not think it's suspicious that Cheeks, who has a recent history of going AWOL with captives of the UNSC, wants them to leave as he goes in there alone? And we've finally arrived at the scene. The one everyone has talked about. It basically defined how people refer to the show. Oh yeah, that's that Halo show where that happened. For those who somehow missed the online conversation about the show when it was airing, Cheeks enters and hands McGee a copy of the book that she had in the flashback scene in episode 3. She then puts her hand on Cheeks' chest, which gets him excited. They lock eyes, then make out, then undress, then Cheeks inserts his activation index into McKee's control room.
Isolate that signal. Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing?
Sir, finishing.
All while Cortana is implied to be watching this all happen. Yeah.
You can watch Cortana watching John.
That's one way to put it. I don't really know what to say about this that hasn't already been said. It happened.
Did I just do that?
I don't know why they decided this needed to happen in the way it did, but that's what they chose.
Game of Thrones has people having sex. If people have sex in this show, we can be as mature as them, right?
I'm not really upset that it happened, considering the more substantial issues the show has. It's more of a funny meme than a serious problem, especially having those shots of Cortana viewing the whole thing. Though it is really funny to describe this to people who are fans of the games and haven't seen the show as Master Cheeks having sex with a Covenant spy while Cortana watches, because usually they picture something else.
Chief, wait!
Forget Arby and the Chief. It seems the Chief is in Arby.
Ha!
After Cheeks is done firing his Halo array, McKee goes into the bathroom and pulls out her stupid finger energy sword, implying that she's shifting her allegiance away from the Covenant? Wait, how did they not detect something like that? Did she not have to go through any sort of metal detector? You'd think they'd scan her body to see if the Covenant implanted her with anything, like a bomb or some sort of tracking device. And it seems she too sucks at hiding small objects that she probably wouldn't want the UNSC to find. Guess that's not just a Spartan thing. Keyes visits Halsey to tell her Parandowski
wants you off the planet by noon.
Halsey says
that's impossible.
Why?
So this whole thing Parandowski set up with Halsey is really confusing. Is she under house arrest here or something? If so, you don't really need her permission to transfer her. If not, then yeah. Maybe give her longer than a few hours to gather her equipment if she is in fact going to be doing her research elsewhere. Actually, why would they want to move her? This whole thing is set up so that the truth of Parandowski and Keyes' involvement in the Spartan program doesn't come to light. Why would her location matter? If the UNSC have reason to question her further, they'll just go to wherever she is and question her there. Where is Halsey? We wish to question her further. Oh, she's not on Reach anymore. Oh, shit. Well, we were on a trail of evidence that incriminates you two. But since Halsey isn't here, and it's not like we can just take the ships that we used to arrive here to go talk to her, we'll just drop our suspicions. This is what I was saying in episode 6 with that scene between Halsey and Parandowski. Halsey can bury them as much, if not more, since they were her commanding officers supervising these experiments.
Easy for me carrying around your secrets?
Our secrets.
It's true.
So Halsey needs to accelerate her plans. Luckily for her, she now has high-level clearance with retina scans.
Go to see of your daughter.
Halsey uses this access to communicate with McKee. She calls out to the guard outside,
Guard?
but I guess they can't hear her? Keep that in mind. They start to talk about Cheeks.
He's very fond of you, and I hear that you feel the same way about him.
That's, one way to put it. Halsey tells McKee that both Cheeks and her are in danger and the artifact should not be delivered to the UNSC, even though it's already in their possession.
You don't care for humanity? I love humanity, but humans are the problem.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Halsey wants to use McKee to get Cheeks to where she wants.
You have to convince John to help you to remove the artifact and bring it to me.
Because Cheeks seems to trust her more than he does Halsey.
You have a connection with John that I will never have. It's been wonderful to watch.
Did you really have to throw that line in there after this? Now I know why Halsey's actress didn't consider her a mother figure.
A mother
to, like, the Spartans in a way.
Actually, I wouldn't use the word mother for her relationship to the Spartans. You have a connection with John that I will never have. It's been wonderful to watch.
I like how there's this awkward shot of Cortana right after Halsey says that, implying how uncomfortable it was for her to watch. Then suddenly the guard comes in asking,
"Who are you talking to?"
So he can hear her talking. How did he not hear her shouting for him a minute ago? The guard only searches the bathroom for a second, then leaves. Hey, maybe she was talking to someone on the communication system that is set up in this room. You want to check that, maybe? She didn't even answer your question. She just stared at you with a guilty look on her face. At least stay in the room a little longer. Make sure she's not sneaking anything, instead of just checking for 5 seconds then going, like an NPC in a video game.
What was that noise?
Guys, I think you took the idea of video game adaptation a little too far.
Ha
Of all the things to adapt faithfully. Right after the guard leaves, Halsey comes back to continue talking to McKee.
Oh, come on!
Halsey wants to use Cheeks and McGee to
tap into the intelligence of the Halo, and we unleash our full and true potential as a species.
How do you know it'll do that? What are you basing this on? Doesn't matter. They need Halsey to seem power-hungry and crazy like the Prophets.
As McKee notices when she talks to Halsey via hologram, she kind of says, wait, you're sort of the same in many ways, you know? And I think that's what makes Halsey such an interesting character.
This guy a retard?
Hearing Halsey say that freaks McGee out, so she frantically tries to shut off the transmission device. And the guard isn't hearing any of this, even though he was standing right there when Halsey came back. Halsey orders the other members of Silver Team to get Cheeks and the artifact on her ship.
John won't go without a fight.
Cortana will take the fight out of him.
A few things here. One, how was she able to assemble all of this without Parandowski or Keyes noticing? You'd think they'd be using that tracking tech they were using on Cheeks and McKee earlier in this episode to keep an eye on her, especially since they believe she is an extreme liability to them. Two, how does she think getting him on the ship will be possible? Even if he's passed out, they'll have to drag him all the way to her ship. Somebody's bound to notice that, unless everyone in this densely populated military base disappears. Oh, and lastly, why are these the only Spartans you're calling upon? Shouldn't there be other squads you can get to help? Come to think of it, have we seen other Spartans in this show? They're on Reach. You'd think we'd be seeing a lot more walking around. Kai starts to question Halsey right as Halsey's computer screen detects Kai doesn't have her pellet. I don't know why it took so long to notice that. So she orders the others to make the second best scene in the entire show. Not as good as the Kwan one. Wish they got a few more punches in there, but I enjoyed it nonetheless.
Ren, check this out.
Whoa, Kai.
It's my favorite Covenant weapon. You ever wonder why? You never wonder why?
So satisfying. To prevent Kai from interfering with the plan, they drag her into a bathroom and chain her to a concrete post. Why do you think this will hold her? You guys are also Spartans. You're aware of how strong you all are. You really think this will hold her when she comes to?
A few moments later.
You stupid idiot! What do you intend to do with Master Chief?
Once we have McKee, we'll no longer need John to activate the artifacts, which means you'll be free to assume full control of his body and consciousness, just as I promised.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
It's so mind-boggling to me that they took one of the most interesting relationships from the Halo universe and reduced it to Halsey just using Cheeks and the other Spartans as pawns in her ultimate goal of evolving the species.
We got to give a little more nuance.
You lie! You're a fucking liar!
Cheeks goes to get McKee for the plan with Keyes and Parandowski. Right as Miranda is about to leave to supervise, she cracks the audio file she was working on earlier in the episode, discovering that it was McKee. She tries to warn everyone else, but her transmission is jammed because of what Halsey is doing. Boy, what timing, huh?
Oh, how convenient!
So she has to run to the lab to warn them. Meanwhile, Halsey tells Cortana to knock Cheeks out on her mark, but she decides to warn him instead.
I know you don't want to talk to me, but it's important.
Go away.
Cortana then shuts down Halsey's feed and communication.
And the Oscar goes to...
I knew she would do something like this. I said that she would end up doing something like this.
Cortana tells Cheeks what Halsey's up to. Cheeks tells McKee to run and find a Marine, while he faces off with his squad members. He then gets jumped, even though he would have heard him running at full speed with that armor on. And because he just doesn't point his gun at Cheeks from a distance and tell him to surrender, Cheeks is able to take his weapon, though he is in full Spartan armor while Cheeks isn't. He could just rush Cheeks with the armor taking all the hits, like she does. While he's fighting his fellow squad members, Cortana helps.
Accessing Warthog.
That's interesting. She can control UNSC vehicles while Cheeks is still conscious. Keep that in mind for later. Kai then comes in to save Cheeks right as he gets absolutely wrecked. She's able to get them away from Cheeks.
That doesn't make sense.
But it ends up just leading to a standoff between them all. You know, this fight could have had some of that emotional investment I went on about during episode 5, if we had any time to develop the other squad members.
We've been fighting together since we were kids, Chief. Whatever you do, we trust you.
Learning about their relationship and bond with each other would have made this fight between them have more impact.
Riz. It's me.
You see? Nothing. Hollow. Meaningless. I didn't even remember her name was Riz.
Right, you do have good Riz.
Let alone the connection they share. While that's all going down, Keyes just notices that
comms are down.
The fact no one in the base has figured that out yet and sounded some kind of an alarm is strange. This is a giant base that has a lot of departments that would probably be in regular contact with each other, and probably other bases on and off reach. McKee finds the NPC guard, and his immediate reaction is to take her directly to the artifact, even though she's acting crazy and seems to have somehow gotten away from Cheeks. Probably not a good idea to take her there until you can confirm she's not up to something, and her claim about Cheeks being attacked is true. But no. Why would a military as large as the UNSC ever need competent people to function? McKee explains to Keyes and Parandowski everything that happened, right as Miranda runs in and outs McKee as the one in the recording. The one who slaughtered the crew of the ship from episode 3. Wow, talk about timing.
I had no choice.
Had no choice? Yeah, there was nothing you could have done differently.
Dude, what am I supposed to do? Die? Like, I don't understand.
I'm sorry. No, please. Talk to John. He knows who I really am.
Clearly he doesn't if he's unaware of this information, but given Cheeks' behavior in the show so far, it wouldn't surprise me if this doesn't move the needle for him. They try to get McKee out of the room, but she starts to freak out. So they start to tase her, because that is the logical thing to do, given the revelation of who she is. But for some reason, the show thinks she deserves sympathy here. While screaming in pain, we're shown flashes of her getting tased when she was younger. Forgive me if I'm finding it hard to feel bad for her. To top all this off, they then throw in that quote from Halsey.
Humans are the problem.
Ah, yes. Humans are the problem. Because they're trying to detain her after learning that she led to the slaughtering of an entire command ship's worth of people. But you see, it's the humans that are flawed and bad. Piss off, show. And fuck McKee. The writers sabotaged themselves by having that scene from episode 3. The scene shows us that she not only helped kill innocent people who did nothing to her in a brutal manner, but she also seems to take sadistic pleasure in it. She wasn't just a tragic prisoner of war who had no choice but to accept the dogma of the Covenant. Instead of feeling like, oh man, if only the UNSC heard her out and gave her a chance to change, I instead feel like justice is finally being served to a rotten character.
That's what you get, you dumb bitch!
They stop tasing her and bring her to her feet. Away! Get her away from the artifact, not closer. God damn it, you guys. Right after I complimented you on having the wits to detain her, once McKee touches the artifact, it goes boom.
Kaboom? Kaboom boom!
somehow knocking Cheeks into another vision of Halo, seeing McKee there saying goodbye to him.
Goodbye, John.
Bye, bitch!
And the episode ends. Only one more left, and the pain can finally end. Just one more. Cheeks wakes up in the aftermath of the explosion. Boy, it makes it even luckier that when Cheeks touched the artifact at the end of episode 1, it didn't just blow up the ship, or that Soren wasn't a blessed one and nuked all of the asteroid city place. Cheeks runs to the room that had the artifact to find Miranda, saying,
McKee, she took the artifact. She's gone.
Wait, how do you just have a nosebleed when you were at ground zero of the explosion? Also, rip this guard. Another cruel casualty at the hands of McKee. Well, he did call her a squid head, so I guess he deserved it. McKee walks away with the artifact and somehow is able to sneak up on the soldiers, take one of their guns, shoots him with it, and forces the other to take her to the Covenant ship. Oh shit, I need to explain that. The rest of Silver Team took this Phantom back from Madrigal at the end of episode 1. It was so that they could study the tech. They bring this back up in episode 4 when the rest of Silver Team meets with Miranda in the lab.
The Phantom we flew back from Madrigal, that was unreal.
I originally mentioned this in an early version of the script, but cut it out as I thought it didn't really serve much of a story purpose, forgetting that it does kind of have a payoff here, with McKee using it to escape. And yet another victim of this extremely sympathetic character. He didn't even call her Squidhead. Cheeks runs after McKee, but then runs into Kai being held hostage.
Halsey's orders are to bring you in, dead or alive.
Cheeks starts to explain how Halsey has lied to them their entire lives, right as Keys and Miranda happen to run into them, allowing Keys to confess to being part of the abduction. This convinces them to stand down. Cheeks tells them that
You lose the artifact, we lose the war.
So Kai says they go and she'll get Halsey. But why? After all this, surely she's wanted for treason now. She's gonna be pretty high up on the UNSC's most wanted list for sure, not leaving her many places to hide. There will be plenty of time to search for her. Like Cheeks said, the Covenant getting the artifact and using it to find the Halo is much dire than... Oh, there she goes. There she also goes. GG, guys. Halsey's ship starts to take off, so Kai summons her inner Lightbringer and is able to catch up, then shoots out its engines. She enters the ship and is able to get to Halsey, and then takes off her helmet. Sure, why not? Kai is now face to face with Halsey, who has answers to a bunch of questions about her past. But the ship is about to crash, so time is limited. She maybe has time to ask one question. So she asks,
What's my real name?
Why is that the first thing you ask? Not, where am I from? Who are my parents? Stuff like that. Why would she think her name changed? I'm asking both Kai and the writers. We know Cheeks' name is John. His parents called him that in those flashbacks. There was never any doubt that the names of the Spartans weren't their birth names. Whatever.
Fuck it!
Pervy scientist weirdo hits Kai in the head. Lucky for her, he didn't have a gun on board.
How about that prick's face when he shot a gat?
She then picks him up and kills him. Now that one scene in episode 3 makes sense, at least from a writing perspective. This way we don't feel bad that Kai accidentally killed him, as is indicated in her reaction here. Damn, could have actually done something cool with that. Like Kai having guilt for killing him when she didn't mean to, not knowing her own strength. Like if Lenny from Of Mice and Men were cognitively aware enough to feel the guilt for what he did. Food for thought, writers. Halsey escapes through an escape pod, and Kai tries to land the ship, but it crashes. And like that, Kai is dead.
Were it so easy?
Of course not. Did you really think the writers would let us off that easy? Somehow Kai survives this. Cheeks, Cortana, Miranda, and Parandowski try to figure out what just happened and where McKee could have taken the artifact. They check the place McKee originally said, but this time with some kind of science blabber that I have no idea if it has any basis in reality or not. They're able to find something there. Parandowski suggests sending battalions of Marines. Cheeks instead suggests that him and Silver Team just go, when they can send both Silver Team and a large number of Marines. Why not hedge your bets by a wide margin by sending more than just a squad of 4 Spartans? If Marines aren't useful for a mission like this, then most of your military is fucking pointless, isn't it? Parandowski also warns Cheeks that he hasn't been acting himself recently.
Well, duh.
that all this getting in touch with his human side will get in his way.
When you walk into the battlefield, John must no longer exist. Only the Master Chief.
In order to save humanity, how much of your own humanity are you willing to risk in the process?
Shut the fuck up!
What's with this weird version of the Halo theme after she says that? They do realize the Halo theme is for the Halos, right? It's used when a Halo is seen or referred to. It's not the theme for Master Chief. I always interpreted On a Pale Horse as his theme. On a Pale Horse referring to death, referencing Master Chief being a Covenant killing machine. But maybe I'm wrong. Even Halo 4 got this right.
A Halo?
Installation 3.
Marty even did a different version of the theme for the Halo featured in Halo 2.
Now, very few people notice, right here, we're hearing a new monk melody that represents the monks of Halo 2 instead of the monks of Halo 1.
But to know that, they would have had to actually play the games. The team readies up to leave for their mission.
Were you really gonna shoot me?
You know I would have.
Absolutely. No question.
Base!
Jesus, I can't believe you two.
Weren't you gonna shoot us?
Of course I would have. I would just felt bad about it.
What is this banter? These are supposed to be the pack of people you were raised with, that you can count on to have your back, that you're going into an extremely important and dangerous mission with? Why would you openly admit and joke about killing each other? Guess that answers my question as to why they didn't show their bond, because apparently they don't have much of one. McKee arrives where the prophets are waiting with the artifact. Wait, Mercy? Mercy is at the head of this version of the prophets? Not Truth? Interesting. That's another thing with this show. In the games, each prophet had their own look and personality that really helped make them distinct from one another. Here, their designs look the same. And as cool as it is that they created an actual language, the decision to not have them speak English, I feel, does hurt the performance. I have to imagine it's pretty hard injecting nuance inflections in your voice when you're speaking a made-up language you just learned. While flying to their destination, Cortana tells Cheeks what Halsey's plan was.
After the other Spartans took you into custody, Dr. Halsey was going to give me full control of your body. And your mind.
And how was she planning on achieving that?
You would need to cease to exist. And I would take over.
Once McKee showed up, I became redundant.
Yes.
Speaking of complicated, Halsey and the Covenant have very similar aspirations.
So their intentions are different, but their way of going about them is very much the same, which is sort of scorched earth.
No! No! You tell me that's not true. That's not true.
Sort of the same in many ways. Makes Halsey such an interesting character.
For writers that claim to want to explore the depth of Halsey, why would you oversimplify her characterization like this? All you had to do was follow what was already done. It's like getting handed the blueprints for the Empire State Building, only to tear them up and just draw a square in the dirt with your finger instead. The show definitively states that Halsey doesn't care about Cheeks or the other Spartans. She has no emotional connection to them. To her, they're nothing more than the head of a razor, a useful tool to accomplish a task, but can easily be discarded and replaced when they can't fulfill their function anymore, losing what made her character interesting in the source. On the surface, it appears that she's this cold, apathetic person who seems more interested in her work. However, she does care about John and the other Spartans, giving her character some depth, something the show could have gone deeper into. I've already gone into detail talking about the show's fumbling with this character. All I wanted to highlight was there was good source material they could have built upon, but instead they took a very nuanced and complex character and turned her into a generic evil scientist.
I love humanity, but humans are the problem.
Yeah, fuck off! Cheeks asked why she didn't go through with Halsey's plan to knock him out.
Because I was also designed to learn, John. And I have, from you. I believe that what Dr. Halsey wants to eliminate from your species is precisely the thing that makes you special. Your humanity.
In order to save humanity.
Shut when you think about it.
Hey, writers, what exactly does she mean by their
humanity.
Do other intelligent life forms have this? Do elites or Sengeli have their own thing? Like, do they ponder what it means to be Sengeli the same way we ponder what it means to be human? If they invented AI art, would their artists argue it takes away the Sengeli from the art? If you want to know what I think, they probably just mean emotion, considering they put Halsey in the opposite to this humanity. And her whole deal throughout the show has been wanting to remove emotion from humanity.
Human brain's myriad design flaws, the hardest to overcome is attachment. It makes it sentimental. People abandon all reason for the sake of pride or fear or
love.
Yes, or love. That's why they need us, Cortana, to save them from themselves.
What is under threat, which is humanity, and I think what we wanted to do was be able to feel that in a very visceral way.
If that's the case, in the Halo universe, I don't think this is something special to humans. Surely all intelligent life forms would have this. Hell, we don't even need to leave our planet or use fictional creatures to prove this false. Are you telling me your dog is incapable of emotional attachment? To have empathy? Dogs can be smart in their own way, but I wouldn't classify them on the same level of intelligence as humans. Yet they seem to possess this trait. Again, if the writers wanted this message to be more nuanced, a part of it could have been the realization that other species possess this trait, even aliens we're at war with. McGee could have even been the bridge to help us understand that individuals in the Covenant have these redeeming traits. That seems like it would be a very fascinating thing to explore in a Halo story.
So you no longer want to take over my body?
Oh wait, for the less beaten up version.
Oh, I guess they're cool now because they made jokes and smiled at each other. What great character development these two have gotten this season. They arrive and something sciencey is happening to their ship.
You must maintain the precise line. If we veer too far in the wrong direction, the ship will be spaghettified.
So now they're flying blind.
Whoa, spaghettified. You didn't think I should know this before we left?
Our odds for success were already so low, I didn't want to worry you.
I guess this is their attempt at finally making Cortana seem like her video game counterpart by giving her quippy dialogue, but it doesn't work here. Cortana would not treat a situation like this. It'd be one thing if Chief was sarcastic with her and she followed up in a similar way, but this guy seems genuinely angry that this advanced artificial intelligence program that is supposed to be assisting them on their mission failed to mention this very important detail that affects their ability to even get to the mission, let alone fulfill it. And all she has to say is, lol. So they make it through whatever science space thing that was conveyed through the CGI shot and shaky cam of the actors grunting while adding a little warp effect.
Oh good, you're still alive. And I think we found what we're looking for.
Fuck you, fuck off!
We then get to the scene that reveals the prophets never actually viewed McKee as a blessed one. They were just using her for her powers, even confirming that the Covenant in the show do view humanity as filthy heathens. I've said before, I'm glad they at least had this explanation for why they had her among their ranks, but like I've also said before, they could have just captured and imprisoned her this whole time, bringing her out and forcing her to touch Forerunner objects when they came across them, instead of giving her actual authority over most of the Covenant. On reach, we check back in with Halsey, who is being visited by Miranda.
The committee is convinced that she is too dangerous for incarceration or exile, which left them only one option. Article 72.
Looks like Halsey's going to the chair. Or is she? Halsey starts seizing. Miranda remembers that this is what Flash clones were designed to do after a period of time, when she overheard the conversation between Cheeks and Halsey in episode 6. When Parandowski just allowed Miranda to view all these incriminating things Halsey was divulging. I guess there was a purpose to it. One sec, let me go back and amend the statement I made. The reason Parandowski shushes Keys is so we, the audience, can hear the explanation from Halsey. And story-wise, the writers wanted Miranda to hear what Halsey did to the Spartans, so that later in episode 9, Miranda will be able to figure out that Halsey used a Flash clone of herself to get captured so she can escape. Now it all makes sense. I can't believe I didn't think of that before. Makes you wonder when she would have swapped with the clone. It'd have to be before Miranda took over the lab, because if there was another Flash clone being kept somewhere, Miranda would have found it. It could have been in this thing pervy scientist dude had in episode 8, so maybe it was kept on the ship the whole time. But wait, doesn't it take at least a few days, if not longer, for a Flash clone to die? So it'd have to be long before Halsey got kicked out of her lab, right? Why do I feel like I'm thinking about this more than the writers did? That the only reason they had this happen is because they realized they wrote themselves into a corner with her and needed a quick way to get out of it?
Ah, fuck it. She's a Flash clone. The real Halsey got away.
How?
Who cares? It's Halsey. She's got contingencies for everything. It makes perfect sense. If you don't think about it.
Cheeks and the rest jump out of the ship from a pretty high distance. Alright, not questioning it. Has anyone ever noticed the back of the pod door has Chief in it? From this moment right before the pods drop? Just something I noticed while I was clipping this out. Alright, back to the video. So I will question how they're able to land as if they just jumped from 2 feet high. They should be making much more of an impact from this height, making a loud enough noise to alert the Covenant.
No one will remember you.
What the fuck was that? Why did she make that weird? I'll remember you, grunt.
Security is light.
The only enemy activity I'm picking up now is inside that temple.
Then why are these few grunts out here sleeping? I get they want to borrow from the games, but that's usually when there's nothing going on and they're on standard guard duty. You'd think they'd be over with the others watching the prophets activate this thing that is pivotal to the Great Journey, the foundation of their religion. Or they were purposefully put on guard duty, in which case you'd think there would be more and closer to the actual structure everyone's at. The prophets connect the two artifacts together, and this causes both McKee and Cheeks to... Cheeks gets spotted by this one grunt. We then get a weird bit of editing here. The grunt runs over and looks down, warning everyone. Cut to a quick shot of Kai readying her sniper to see that the grunt is turned back around and appears to be firing at Cheeks. Then Kai headshots him. But that seems to be what alerts everyone to the Spartans, not the grunt peeking over and shouting at them. One of the prophets blames McKee.
On a planet called Raskotska. In the star system you call Aspero.
Sorry, McKee.
He's right, he's right.
Then hundreds of elites come running out of the mountain. Why are they hiding in there? Wouldn't they be out here for this monumental occasion? Unless the prophets knew they would be found. Wait, is this supposed to be the elite homeworld? Why are there these old-looking statues of elites on these pillars? Hold on, why are these brutes just standing up there? Why aren't they on lookout being that high up? They could have seen the Spartans landing. Come to think of it, why weren't any of these elites that were hiding in the mountain on guard duty?
Stop asking questions, old man!
There's too many!
Just a few hundred.
You gotta be shitting me!
Yeah, maybe that's why you should have brought more people than just yourselves.
You fucking idiot!
Chief?
What?
Remember him?
No? Oh wait, he's from episode 5, isn't he? That's right. Don't even know his name, and he was on screen for like a few minutes. Not enough to care if they ever got a rematch. But I guess the show disagrees because they start playing a version of the Halo theme.
It took you long enough.
Well, shit.
That line feels so out of character for the Cheeks portrayed in this show. He's about to fight that brute when Riz comes in to steal his kill.
Get fucked!
Cheeks then fights all the brutes, which is fine. Definitely a better implementation of the first-person view than episode 1. Would be cool in a show that I actually liked and was with characters I was attached to. I feel as much emotional investment watching this as I would paint dry. I'm curious what the reaction channels thought of this.
There it is! No, Master Chief's got this. They're playing the fucking music!
Oh! Oh!
First person! Oh, you can see the ammo counter! Yeah, it's pretty cool. This is fun.
This is amazing!
Nah, bro, this choreo, Chris, is on. Oh my god, this choreo is doing something to me.
McKee sees Cheeks getting beaten down by the brutes, which causes her to have a change of heart and switch sides again. She goes up to the artifacts and touches them. By doing this, she creates some sort of strong wind that conveniently only knocks off the Covenant. It also seems to show coordinates to a Halo ring. Cheeks, being the mindless simp for McKee that he is, walks over to her.
John.
Cheeks and McKee end up back in the dream Halo vision again. Cheeks tries to get McKee to send them back, because I guess that's something she can do?
There's a reason the Keystones led us to each other. been guiding us this whole time. Now we're here.
The place you two always go when you touch the artifacts near each other. Then McKee dies. Turns out Kai shot her to wake Cheeks up. Makes me hate her character a little less for doing that. But of course the show is going to frame this as morally gray, if not bad. Which, again, may I remind you... Adios, McKee. You were as terrible of a character as you were a person. No one will remember your character fondly. If at all.
Good riddance.
Oh shit, that's right. The prophets have been here the whole time. Just floating above everyone, just letting all this happen. With no one really acknowledging that. The leaders of the Covenant are just up there. Cheeks, if you can just turn around and shoot them real quick, it would make a real difference in the war. No rush or anything. They're just the leaders of the Covenant.
But they could have shields around them we can't see.
That would be a great way to write around them being there and not shot to death, but they should at least have someone shoot at them and show the shields deflecting the shot to establish this, or have a throwaway line about how they're surrounded by shields.
I'd be an idiot if I didn't check.
Grizz gets hit with a sticky grenade.
There's something on your head. What? Is it a spider? Get it off!
Kai runs over to help her and they both get blown up. That leaves just Cheeks left. Cortana makes it clear that there is no way he can get the artifact and the team out of here, especially since touching them will cause him to freak out. Oh no, what is he to do?
Then you do it.
Cheeks decides to let himself die so Cortana can take over his body. So that's why we had that scene in episode 3 that established that the artifacts can tell who's touching them on a conscious level.
It's unclear why the artifact responds only to John as John, but it does.
Okay, wait. Now that we know that the artifacts are actually responding to something special in both Cheeks and McKee's DNA, why would it matter if it's the person's consciousness? The DNA would still be the same. They clearly had this payoff in the finale in mind and didn't think about what it was saying about... Oh, fuck. That's right. There's literal magic in the show. Guess it doesn't matter.
Fuck it. It's magic space DNA. It can do anything we want it to. Who cares?
Cheeks gets hit pretty hard with a hammer and dies. If only it was a banshee that slammed into him. He'd be able to just walk it off no problem. Cortana solemnly takes over Cheeks' body. The Covenant patiently wait for the sad goodbye to end. Cortana, controlling Cheeks, gets up. We need a new name for this version of the character. How about Imposter Cheeks? Imposter Cheeks starts wrecking everyone like he just switched the difficulty from legendary to easy. Kinda looks like a third-person view of someone playing the game. I wonder why. Cortana then pilots the ship they arrived on and it's able to ward off the rest of the enemies.
Say what?
Why didn't she use this from the start? She had access to it the whole time. We've seen she can operate vehicles independently during the fight last episode. Why did she wait until everyone else was down? Why did Cheeks have to sacrifice himself for her to use it? Maybe she was lying about not wanting to take over his body anymore, forcing Cheeks to get himself killed in order to complete the mission? It's the only explanation that makes sense. Imposter Cheeks picks up the artifacts and brings them to the ship. Kai sees this, implying that she knows something is up. Too bad for them, they can't fire anything from their chairs. They fly the ship away. Luckily, there weren't any Covenant aircrafts also hidden in the mountains somewhere. Imposter Cheeks cauterizes Riz's horrifying wound. Would cauterizing even work for a wound like that? Not trying to nitpick the show, I'm genuinely curious.
Should you cauterize a large wound? According to Wikipedia, cautery was historically believed to prevent infection, but current research shows that cautery actually increases the risk for infection by causing more tissue damage and providing a more hospitable environment for bacterial growth.
Huh. The more you know. We then end the episode with another Halsey monologue about humanity and evolution and blah blah blah.
Where we will discover our true potential. I suspect the Halo will provide the key.
You could not be more wrong.
Why is she hanging out in the open when she is known to still be on Reach and is probably very high on the UNSC's wanted list?
We will rewrite what it means to be human. That we will achieve transcendence.
Ugh. Kai goes to check on Imposter Cheeks, ending the season on...
John? Is that you?
Fucking finally, I'm done with this fucking season. But before I go, what was that ending?
What the hell was that? Ultimately, we knew where we needed to get to was the relationship that our fans know and love and understand. And so this was just a really different way of getting there.
It certainly was.
You can watch Cortana watching John.
You guys really think you've arrived at the place where they were in the games? Because I don't think you did. Or you have a very different reading on that relationship.
Maybe you're just reading too much into that comment.
Well, think about it. The whole story is about exploring the humanity underneath. Though, as I've pointed out, a little ironic given the intro. You'd think they'd want to have it so the armor slowly falls off, revealing the human underneath. This whole story has been heavy-handedly trying to tell us that our humanity is worth preserving, warts and all. Cheeks being the primary vehicle for this message.
There is no John. There's been no John for years. There is only Master Chief, a product of the species who made him necessary.
The show draws a line between John as the person and Master Chief as the soldier, highlighted by that line from Parandowski in the last episode.
When you walk into the battlefield, John must no longer exist. Only the Master Chief.
Then he has to make a sacrifice so that everyone else on his team can make it out with the artifacts. That sacrifice killing John so that the Master Chief can save the day. Even portraying him as more of the one-man army we play as in the games. Maybe the intro is meant to be read with the ending in mind. The man is slowly being taken over until he's just the armor. The triumphant music that plays throughout still doesn't really make sense. But hey, if this whole breakdown of the show is a record of anything, it's that the show ain't exactly great at executing its ideas. If Kiki said something like,
"We know the relationship Chief and Cortana have in the games, but here we want to do something completely different that leans more into the story and message we were trying to tell,"
then I wouldn't have as much of a problem. It would still be a horrible insult to the characters, but at least they acknowledge this iteration is nothing like the original. But it seems like they think they've achieved the same dynamic and characterization from the games, which means this is their view of Chief and his relationship to Cortana. That Chief is the husk of John, a man who forfeited his humanity to be a soldier. I already covered my thoughts on this misconception that Chief from the first 3 games had no character or humanity back while I was covering episode 3, so I don't really want to repeat myself too much here. I just want to make it clear to the writers that they did not recreate what is in the games. You did not work your way to the same relationship. You literally sucked the soul out of the character and are now trying to gaslight the Halo community into thinking this is how Chief always was. When, if you just pick up a damn controller and play the games yourself, you take away the opposite conclusion.
But what if the reason Chief doesn't say anything is because the writers want to leave it up to the audience's interpretation?
Okay, I'll entertain that idea. We can even call him Schrodinger's Chief, but we know the story is going to be continuing into a second season, so they're gonna have to open that box.
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
And it'll either be a revived Master Cheeks, or Imposter Cheeks will have permanently taken over. To me, it feels less like a creative choice and more like what they did at the end of Halo Infinite with the weapon's new name, where they have the pilot guy say,
"What do I call you?"
The weapon then asks,
Do you think it would be okay?
then says,
I think I might have the perfect one.
then doesn't say anything, and the pilot guy chuckles as they fly away. Clearly 343 wanted to see what the audience reaction to her being the replacement for Cortana was. If it was mostly liked, then she'd take on her name, as hinted at in that little exchange between her and Chief. Or if the audience hated the idea, then they can just name her something else in that eventual story DLC we're definitely getting.
Aww, too soon.
Same thing here. If people like the ending, then they can commit to it. If people don't, then they could easily reverse it. So now, having went through the entire show episode by episode, beat by beat, I feel it's safe to say the show is not very good.
fucking thing sucks!
The characters are anywhere from cliched, flat, all over the place, stupid, and or unlikable. The plot barely holds together and relies on you not asking questions, and the world is poorly developed.
If it were our absolute goal, could we look more incompetent?
Nope. If you only watched this show and knew nothing about the games, you'd think the Covenant were a smaller, insignificant military force against the UNSC, and the insurrectionists were the bigger threat, when it should be reversed. Not only being more accurate to the main universe, but just logically. It feels like the show was made by people who wanted to tell their own story. A very shitty story. And the studio didn't care as long as it had the name Halo on it, so they could market it to an already existing customer base. That's it. Maybe the process wasn't as cold and mechanical as that, but that's sure as hell how it comes across. It feels like there wasn't any passion to take the storyline of the games and adapt it to a new medium. Compare the show to the leaked Halo movie script written by Alex Garland from 20 years ago, or just watch a video of someone who has read it. There are some big changes from the source material, no Johnson in this too for some reason, and it ain't perfect, but fucking hell. It definitely reads like someone who has played the first game and wanted to take the characters, essential beats, themes, and atmosphere and translate it to a different medium. What puts this show to shame more than any other crappy adaptation is that people online have been making their own Halo shows for like the last 20 years. Starting with Red vs. Blue paving the way back in 2003, and with Halo 3 introducing Forge and Theater mode at the same time as YouTube was growing as a platform, led to dozens of Halo Machinima series being made, all of which have way more passion poured into them than what we officially got.
Somebody should tell Paramount Pictures to get their shit together.
My personal favorite being Arby and the Chief. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. The first 4 seasons are like a time capsule of the late 2000s, early 2010s era of Xbox Live, with seasons 5 to 8 telling a more cinematic story. Definitely much better storytelling than in this show. Hell, if you want an example of being able to tell stories with a character who can't emote through their facial expressions, this show's existence is proof it can be done. None of the characters have a face that can express things, but through careful and subtle editing, cinematography, and puppeteering, you're able to connect with these action figures as much as any actor with a face. Pablo. It's hilarious that a show that costs millions can be easily upstaged by a guy working with a $0 budget out of his apartment. Guess you can't buy good writing. Doesn't matter if you're pouring millions into a production. If there's no script to support it, you might as well be setting that money on fire. And it's good to see everyone seems to agree. Well, most people.
But it's a solid adaptation of an iconic franchise and one that succeeds in blazing its own trail in the process. Iconic or not, Master Chief as he exists in the games is not an ideal protagonist for a TV series. He's a man of few words and even fewer displays of emotion. The series humanizes John without fundamentally betraying the qualities fans love from the games. Season 1 takes full advantage of Halsey's rich characterization in the games. Charlie Murphy's McKee is a welcome wrinkle to this new continuity, giving fans a unique perspective into life among the Covenant. McKee grows steadily more tragic and compelling over the course of these 9 episodes. That character-driven approach generally works well. This is an adaptation willing to take some risks, and those risks tend to pay off.
Hey guys, I wrote a
Halo TV show review.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, good, Ringo. Fantastic.
You know what? I'm gonna put it right here. Right on the refrigerator. That way we'll get to see it every day. All right.
There is a comfort to be found in the fact that the show takes place in its own timeline, separate from the games. It's not like it's yet another embarrassing continuation of a story that had a perfect conclusion. Twice. We can just flush it away and never have to think about it again.
If your show had a scent, what would it be?
I feel like sometimes the universe can feel so inaccessible.
I thought it was UNSC propaganda.
We've seen the Spartan propaganda broadcasts. Those other colonies are going to run from the UNSC as fast as they can.
We're murdering a teenage girl.
We're in war, Miranda. The future of humanity.
What's the point in saving humanity if we're going to give up our own?
In order to save humanity,
How much of your own humanity are you willing to risk in the process?
If you want me dead, you'll need to aim up here.
Governor Venture has control of the situation on Madrigal, but perhaps with somewhat more of an iron fist than we anticipated when we put him in charge.
What am I?
Don't turn your back on me, asshole.
Go away. AI off.
I'm introducing myself to the rest of the team.
Go disappear!
Is this why you've removed your pellet, so you could hear things differently?
Maybe I just wanted to hear it like everyone else.
Heavy lies ahead.
You're a traitor! You stand and pray and you claim to honor him, but you're all cowards!
Whoa, Kai. It's my favorite Covenant weapon. Can you put that down, please? Halo.
You ever wonder why? You never wonder why?
Shutting down Neural Bridge.
There's a few seconds, John, please.
So do it. Make me open this door.
Statistically, you're 2 in a billion.
You said you could help.
I do want to help.
Then start helping!
Insurrection is canonical, Human Covenant War canonical, but we actually pulled the dates in together so there could be some overlap.
If you're gonna feed your soldiers, Father, at least don't feed them lies.
포탈이란다. 마드리갈에 숨겨진 고귀한 힘으로 움직여.
Swirl. Gather his nuts. Oh, it's like that.
Yeah, it's like that.
You don't care for humanity. I love humanity. But humans are the problem.
As McKee notices when she talks to Halsey via hologram, she kind of says, wait, you're sort of the same in many ways, you know? And I think that's what makes Halsey such an interesting character.
After the other Spartans took you into custody, Dr. Halsey was going to give me full control of your body cease to exist. And I would take over. It was always the plan. It's what I was designed to do.
We got to, give a little more nuance to Cortana and why she was created.
John must no longer exist. Only the
Odds for
hostage.
success were already so low. I didn't want to worry.
John? Is that you?
Ultimately, we knew where we needed to get to was the relationship that our fans know and love. And so this was just a really different way of getting there.
Sometimes what happens here is like taking a shit.